These are all the things I carry around when I go to uni. However, simply tossing them into a bag like this one isn't really a solution. It's messy, I never find what I need, and I'm always scared to break something. That's why I use a backpack, but I don't really like the look of carrying one. So my solution is to make a custom fitted bag where everything I need has its own place, and I'm gonna show you how. To make this bag, I first made a mock-up. It is made from paper and it's not looking that nice, but it just really helped me to figure out the dimensions. And after I had my mock-up, I just measured it out and wrote everything down on paper and just added seam allowance to get the pattern, and this is what I came up with. So now let me show you my fabric. I have this champagne colored canvas. It is water resistant, which is just very nice because it's going to be on the outside of the bag. And then I have another canvas, but with a very pretty flower print on it. I also used it to make my wallet. I'm going to use it to make the straps. And then I also have this cotton fabric with another pretty flower print on it. It's actually an old bedsheet that I thrifted, which is just very nice and sustainable, and I just really like it, and it's going to be the lining. So now I'm just going to cut out all the pieces I need. Before I cut out all the lining pieces, I'm first going to cut off the side seams of the bedsheet so I can lay it down nice and flat and just make my life a lot easier. I could also seam rip this, but I just really don't feel like seam ripping. I finally finished to cut out all the pieces, and this might not seem like a lot, but it just took so long. I'm just so glad it's done. And now I think the first thing I'll do is to make the straps, and therefore I just fold in the edges 1 centimeter and then fold it in half. I'm also going to insert this, I think it's called wadding? I'm not sure, but I'm going to insert these into the straps because then they are just a bit thicker and I hope it's more comfortable to wear, so let's do that. I finished to sew up the straps, and I only sewed up the part in the middle, and I left the ends open because that's gonna be sewn when I attach it to the back. Now I'm going to prepare the pockets that are going to be on the outside of the bag, and I'm just going to sew the outside fabric and the lining right sides together on the top edge, flip it around and top stitch it. I finished to assemble the pocket, and I noticed that it is a little bit see-through, so I put another layer of cotton in between the outer fabric and the lining. Now I'm going to take the pocket, the strap, and this canvas piece, and it's the one that goes on the front of the bag. Then I pin them together so they look like this. It is pinned together, so now I'm going to sew the straps on there, and I'm just going to sew this line and this line, but I'm going to stop 4 centimeters underneath the top edge. I finished to sew it together, and it's already starting to look like a bag. And now I'm going to take the bottom piece and sew it right here together with this other piece on both pieces, and then top stitch it. It is all sewn together, so now I'm just going to fold this in half and close up the side seam and then also top stitch it. When I'm sewing this, I'm first sewing from this point in this direction and then from this point in this direction, because then the seams of the two sides line up perfectly. It is sewn together and I think it already looks so nice. And now I'm going to turn this around. And now to make this three-dimensional, I'm going to fold the corners like this and then just sew right across it. The outside of the bag is now basically finished and I just really like how it's looking. So now I can move on to making the lining, and the first thing I'll do is to take the pocket for the laptop and the three smaller pockets and just put the pieces right sides facing each other, sew once around them, turn them around and sew around them once again. By the way, if you haven't subscribed yet, I would highly appreciate if you do so, and please like the video because it really helps with the algorithm. These pieces are now prepared, so next I'm going to take the ones for the bottle and the umbrella, and I'm going to fold over the top edge twice and sew it down and then insert an elastic. These pieces are now finished as well, so now I'm going to make the zipper pocket. So I start by marking a rectangle that is 1 centimeter wide, then I put this piece onto the bigger piece of fabric and just sew along my line. Then I cut open the inside of this rectangle and flip it around and press it. Then I just repeat all those steps to the bigger piece of fabric, put the zipper in between and sew the two pieces together. Lastly, I just attach the back side of the pocket. The zipper is in and I just really like how nice and neat it looks. And that means all the pieces that are supposed to go inside the bag are done, and now I can take all of these pieces and pin them onto this big lining piece. I finished to attach the pockets for my wallet, my phone and an additional bag, and also the pocket for the computer. And now the only pockets left to be attached are the ones for the umbrella and the water bottle. All the pockets are now sewn in, so next I'm just going to close up this bag just like I did with the outer fabric. So I'm going to close up the side seams and then poke out these corners and sew across them, but I am going to leave a gap in the side seam to be able to turn the bag inside out in the end. The lining is finished, all the pockets are in, and I also made this piece, and it's basically another lining but without the pockets and instead with interfacing on it. So the only thing left to do before I can assemble everything is to make the closure. So I'm going to take this zipper and these other pieces and just sew them on the sides of the zipper. First I attached the zipper only to the lining, then I put the outer fabric on top, sew it together, turn it around and top stitch along the zipper to keep it all in place. Next, I attach zipper tag onto the zipper to make sure it won't open up. Then I mark how wide I want the whole piece to be and cut it to size. The zipper is attached, and that means all the separate pieces are finished. So we have the zipper, the interlining, the outer fabric, and the lining. And before I can attach them, I first have to cut the pieces a little bit shorter. So on the outer fabric and on the interlining, I have to cut off 1 centimeter on the top edge, because I added that centimeter in the beginning just to have a little room in case I measured something wrong. And on the lining, I have to cut off 5 centimeters, because one of those 5 centimeters is the one I also cut off on the other pieces, and the other 4 are basically the fold at the top edge, because the outer fabric folds in, and that means the outer fabric has to be a little bit longer and the lining a little bit shorter. So I'm just going to cut that off. All the pieces are cut to size, so now I'm going to make this in 2 steps just to make my life a little bit easier. So first I'm going to sew the closure onto the lining, and I'm going to sew the interlining to the outside, and afterwards I'm going to put them all together. First, I put the interlining into the outside fabric and sew them together on the top edge, and I make sure to sew within the seam allowance so the seam won't be visible. Then I pin the zipper onto the lining and sew them together as well on the top edge. Next, I put the outside into the lining, right sides facing each other, and sew them together on the top edge as well. At the end, I just have to turn it inside out. I just hope so much this is all correct. The bag is almost finished. All that's left to do is to close up the gap at the side of the lining and to top stitch once around the top edge. First, I top stitched the seam where I sewed the lining and the outer fabric together, and then I top stitched the top edge. And at the end, I just close up the opening in the lining. It is finished! And I just can't wait to use it. I think it was not too hard to make, and I just really like the design with the flower strap. I think it's just not something you see very often on the street. It was a little bit hard to sew on the straps because they were just shifting around and the pocket was shifting around as well, and it just was hard to keep it all in place. And then the fabric just created weird waves and I had to redo it, but I think now it looks fine. So now, without further ado, let's have a look at the finished bag. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, you can also watch this one where I show you how to make a beautiful wallet.